Creepy Cafutorium Book 2, The Never-Ending Song. Written by Justin Weinberger with Colleen A.F. Venable. Illustrated by Anna Maria Young. Welcome back to Newville Elementary, home of the world's oldest Cafutorium. It's half cafeteria, half auditorium, and half gymnasium. You may say, hey, wait, that's 3 halves, and that's 1 half too many. That's not possible. I'm very good at math, Gertie. To which I would reply, you are very good at math. But the Cafutorium doesn't follow many rules, even the rules of math. I'm Gertie, your guide, and along with the rules it doesn't follow, sometimes our Cafutorium takes things. It's the place missing socks go. You can arrive at school with 2 socks on, and halfway through gym class think, wow, I feel less socky than I did a moment ago. Yup, the Cafutorium stole one of your socks. But the Cafutorium also gives things. For instance, one time the Cafutorium gave the entire school and, well, the entire town the gift of song. This is the story of Declan Jones, a fine musician and lover of numbers, who taught his class that a catchy song is a gift that keeps on giving, and giving, and giving, and giving. The Cafutorium at Newville Elementary could transform into almost anything. A lunchroom, a school dance floor, a basketball court, even a wasteland where clocks never move past 2:14 p.m. Seriously, the clocks in there haven't moved for years. But no matter what form it was in, a piano was always there somewhere. And wherever the piano was, Declan found it. The kids all knew when he did, because he always played the same song. Row, row, row your boat. He played the melody with his right hand, and then, at the end of that first line, he would begin again with his left. Row, row, row your boat, as his right hand moved on to the next line, gently down the stream. You probably know the words. The whole way through the song, he had both hands playing different parts of the melody in a round. It's like Declan was a juggler, only he wasn't juggling apples or tomatoes or rubber chickens that squeak when you squeeze them. He was juggling more and more parts of the song. Every day he got better, and every day he added another new flourish to the way he played. At first, everyone clapped when he was done. For a while, a lot of kids were impressed by how good he was, and hearing his daily recital was a nice way to start lunch, or take your mind off losing a game of kickball, or distract yourself from wondering why those clocks never ever moved past 2:14 p.m. But Declan only ever played one song, every single day. Row, row, row your boat. After months of hearing the same tune over and over, people started groaning when they heard the piano bench scrape across the hardwood floor toward those keys. And no matter how well Declan could play it, eventually everyone was sick of hearing the same old song. Throw, throw, throw that piano gently off a cliff, Phyllis sang under her breath one day. It wasn't the first time she had made a joke, but it was a rare joke for Phyllis because it was actually funny. This was not a good sign. Phyllis wanted to be the funniest kid in school, but she wasn't. Actually, the only time her jokes made sense was when something creepy was about to happen in the Cafutorium. Uh-oh, said Esme, the first one to notice Phyllis's successful joke. Esme reached under her seat and pulled out the bike helmet that she kept hidden there to protect herself during unexpected Cafutorium calamities. Hey, what's that sound? Joel whispered to his best friend, other Joel, who took a deep breath and bellowed, Hey, what's that sound? Esme strained to listen, but all she could hear was Declan's song. She adjusted the helmet and buckled it under her chin. Merrily, 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 gently down the... Can you hear it too? Asked other Joel. Esme watched, listened, smelled, and used her other 8 senses. Extra senses were another thing the Cafutorium sometimes gave, to try and figure out exactly what was going on, but she couldn't focus on anything but the song. Declan, would you stop for a minute, please? Esme asked. Row, row, row your boat. Merrily, 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 merrily. Declan, come on! Something... creepy is happening, and I can't hear it because... Esme stopped, swallowing hard. Where's Declan? She looked right at the piano bench, but Declan wasn't sitting there. No one was. The sound was coming from somewhere else. Merrily, 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 gently down the... Esme and Phyllis and Joel and other Joel looked around, and the rest of the school looked around too. And then they all looked at the piano, which just stood there quietly, not making any sound at all. Merrily, merrily, gently, merrily. I knew I should have gotten a soundproof helmet, said Esme. Merrily, merrily, gently, merrily stream, merrily boat, stream, gently row. Where is Declan right now? Other Joel asked. But that wasn't really the right question. The right question was, where had Declan been 10 minutes before? 7, 8, 9, 10. Declan finished counting. Even though he knew the Cafutorium clocks would say it was 2:14 p.m., as always, his stomach told him it was 10 minutes until lunch. Not because he was hungry, though. It wasn't the idea of food that was making his stomach talk. It was the idea of playing the piano. Declan was upset because he knew people were sick of his song. They used to clap, but now they booed, even though he'd been practicing hard and playing his absolute best. It didn't seem to matter. Whatever he did, however hard he tried, everyone was tired of hearing him play. That's why he was counting to 10. Because counting to 10 is a good way to calm down when you're upset. He'd been counting to 10 so much lately that the numbers had become kind of a song. As he stood there, the melody started to bubble up inside his head. It made him feel better almost immediately, so he started singing 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. He could always count on music to work like magic and make things feel right again. 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. He didn't have to use a piano. He didn't have to sing the right words. Instruments and lyrics weren't what he liked about making music. What made him feel amazing was the way the melody and the harmony fit together. 1, 1, 1, 5, 5, 5, 3, 3, 3, 1. But he stopped in his tracks as a thought popped into his head. He had a very upsetting new idea. One of the best things about music, Declan had always thought, was that it was something everyone got to share. No one got left out. Only, what if they wanted to be left out? What if the music Declan played every day didn't make other people feel the wonderful way he felt while he was playing it? What if it made them feel bad? Maybe I should just keep my song to myself from now on, Declan mumbled toward the floor. Gertie, the custodian, looked up from dusting the statue of a giant pickle with tiny wings that stood in the hall. What was that, Declan? Nothing, he said, and then he took a deep breath and pressed his lips closed, holding the song inside of him. It felt like holding in a sneeze. And that made Declan have another thought. What if playing his song for other people was like sneezing on them? Sneezing on people was most definitely not what Declan wanted to do. Declan decided he needed a break from the piano, at least for today. So he told the nurse that he felt sick to his stomach, which was absolutely true, and the nurse sent him home. That's why, when lunchtime came around 10 minutes later, the piano sat alone and unplayed, but the music was in everyone's heads anyway. For hours, the tune went on, over and over, just like it was always 2:14 p.m. in the Cafutorium. Row, row, row your boat was always playing in everyone's heads. Joel whispered something to other Joel. It's getting worse, other Joel said loudly. Everyone in the school was moaning and pleading for it to stop. Even Jello Mrs. Parker, all the way down in the main office, felt a shiver that made her green body wriggle from head to toe. Ms. Frock's class begged her to help, but without a scientific explanation, Ms. Frock couldn't come up with a scientific solution. Alex, Esme, and Phyllis eventually figured out that everyone had the same song stuck in their heads, but at slightly different places in the song. They could all hear everyone's parts at once, just like when Declan was actually playing it. But unlike when Declan played, there was no end. The song just kept going. Joel whispered something to other Joel. Are we gonna be stuck like this forever? Other Joel asked loudly. I think we'll be okay, other Joel, said Esme. Everyone just has to go home, where we can't hear each other. Then we can all get to the end of the song. I'm pretty sure that's how we'll get it out of our heads. That sounds logical to me, Alex. Agreed. Can we go home right now? Nobody is row. I mean going anywhere, said Mr. Noodlestrudel, the cafeteria monitor. Remain calm, students. This is a simple case of merrily, overexcited cochlea. I'm sorry, overexcited what? Asked Liz Dawson, class champion eater, though she didn't seem to sneak back into the lunch line as often as she used to. Dylan had the fastest moving thumbs in the west, east, north, south, and swarth, the cafetorium's favorite direction, and he was very good at hiding his phone from teachers. Dylan had already looked up cochlea. The cochlea is a part of your ear that connects to your brain, he said. Thanks, said Liz Dawson. No problem, Dylan said, continuing to type on his phone. Though there's nothing on the internet about an overexcited one, he added. Mr. Noodlestrudel frowned. Merrily. Alex was still arguing his point. But Mr. Noodlestrudel, how are we supposed to focus unless we all go home and get this song out of our heads? You can go home when that clock says 2:45, Alex, not a minute before. The kids all looked at the clock. It said 2:14. Esme was right that creepy things usually stayed in the cafetorium, but in this case, the creepy thing was happening inside of everyone's heads, and everyone's heads were connected to everyone's bodies. So when everyone's feet walked out of the school and went home to different houses, everyone brought the never-ending noise with them. And the song didn't just stay in their heads. When it got to all of those houses, it spread to everyone's brothers and sisters and parents and imaginary friends. Even when everyone went to bed, they all had the same bad dream, hearing the song over and over and over. Soon everyone in the entire town was humming and singing and repeating, row your boat gently down the... Oh, for creep's sake, said Alex the next day at school. The song played on. When will this end? Asked Joel, not very quietly for once. Other Joel just sat there, blinking in exhaustion. It will never end, said Phyllis with a strange, wild-eyed expression. Give in, Joel. Join us. Phyllis stood on her chair and rallied the school. Everyone, don't you see? This is a gift. We live in a Broadway musical now. The worst musical of all time. From the geniuses who brought you the I'm Not Touching You game. What are you guys saying? Asked Esme, taking off the noise-canceling headphones she was wearing. They didn't really help block out the song, but they did make it feel like someone was giving her ears a tiny hug, which was nice. The whole school was in agony, just trying to survive from one verse to the next. The teachers couldn't focus on what they were teaching, and Gertie kept cleaning the winged pickle statue, though it looked like she wasn't so much cleaning it as watering it, humming a little ditty everyone knew all too well. Whenever a student was called up to the board to answer a question, they wrote down the lyrics to the song instead. Meanwhile, Declan was totally miserable. He'd been so focused on holding in the music that he hadn't even noticed all the stuff going on around him. It took every ounce of his willpower to ignore the urge to shout and sing and let his hands dance across the piano. He counted to 10 a million times, and he was still overwhelmed with the urge to play the song. He didn't really decide to go to the piano at lunch, but his feet carried him over to the bench, which scraped across the hardwood floor, and he set his fingers on the keys. As soon as he started playing, he stopped feeling like he was holding in the world's biggest sneeze. Creating music was the greatest feeling for Declan, and he'd just spent an entire day without it. As he played the song, the whole school stopped and listened. He started first with his right hand, and then he added his left, like always. But today, he was at the top of his game. He kept juggling all the different parts of the song all at once. And everyone in the school heard the whole song, every note, every line all at once. It was like a symphony orchestra was playing. Like Declan had graduated from juggling apples to juggling flaming torches and giant chainsaws and baby tigers all at once. It was amazing. The song reached the end. The loop was over. And then there was silence. Total and complete silence. No one in the cafetorium moved. No one breathed or spoke or scraped a chair on the floor. Hope you all liked it, Declan said sheepishly. He sat there, nervous, in the total silence. He wondered if everyone was upset. But then, something happened that Declan would never forget. Everyone stood up and cheered. The whole cafetorium full of people. Declan looked around and saw that even Mr. Noodlestrudel, who never stopped looking for rule breakers, was clapping wildly. Declan felt a smile spread over his whole face. He patted the piano fondly and said to himself, "Life is but a dream." That's when there was a crash out in the hall. "I'm all right," Gertie said. "Can't say the same for this flying pickle." Statue, though. I think it's hatching." Everyone stopped and looked at each other. "Is the pickle statue an egg?" asked Liz Dawson. "Well, whatever it is," said Phyllis with a smirk, "I'm pretty sure it's no big deal." "Here we go again," said Esme as she tightened the strap on her helmet.